Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. Today on the program, dengue cases still on the rise amid a national epidemic declaration.
So we're expecting the cases na talagang peak natin, nagsa-start na talaga August, September, October hanggang November minsan. And nagsa-start pa lang mag-decrease sa December.
The president saying he's open to bring back a controversial vaccine.
I'd rather go on the side of science. I am open to the use of Dengvaxia again.
But is Dengvaxia the answer to winning the fight against dengue?
Kahit ibigay natin sa ngayon, hindi naman po niya talaga maititigil yung outbreak. Ang pagbibigay ng bakuna, in the longer term po yan. After several years or a couple of years pa po talaga may mangyayari.
Also, the Commission on Audit flags millions of pesos worth of expired medicines. Health Undersecretary and Food and Drug Administration Officer in charge, Domingo, joins us live. Thank you for joining us. I'm Pinky Webb. The Health Department intensifies its campaign against dengue after declaring a national epidemic due to the high incidence of the disease in the country. But the department warns that dengue cases may still spike until November. Also, lawmakers are weighing in on the possibility of bringing back the controversial dengue vaccine, Dengvaxia, amid protests from some experts saying that this move will not stop the current epidemic. Also, what is the DOH's action after the Commission on Audit reports expired medicines worth billions of pesos stocked in the department's warehouse? Let's go straight to the source of the story. We have Health Undersecretary and Food and Drug Administration Officer in charge, Domingo. Welcome to the show. Good to see you.
Hi,
good to finally meet you.
Yeah, good morning, Pinky. I'm happy to be here.
So, dengue cases, I just want to bring out the numbers again. I know you probably are tired of this, but it's a fact. 98% increase from January to July this year compared to the same period last year.
Yes, that's double. No? And that's 167,600 cases. The 167,000, that's a lot.
It's 167,000 cases, USEC, and there are 600 plus deaths. So tell us again the history. I know Secretary Duque was already saying that this normally happens, every 3 to 4 years.
Yeah, I think if everybody remembers, in 2016 was a high burden year for dengue. In fact, that's when they rolled out the Dengvaxia vaccine, because that was one of the, justifications for a vaccine. But dengue, we know, does have its ups and downs. It usually goes with 2 years na low burden, and then the third year is a high burden year. And 2019 is proving to be that, not only in the Philippines, but all over the Asian continent. No? So Malaysia, Thailand, we all have the same experience. And right now, we're trying to cope with it because we're really seeing so many cases, and most regions in the country are now beyond the epidemic limit.
Yeah, when you talk about most regions in the country beyond the epidemic limit, there are about 10 regions from my last research, sir, that are beyond the epidemic level.
Yes, and we're watching 2 more,
Yeah.
no? Region 1 and NCR.
Yeah,
So,
I want to get to that, sir, because bakit ho ba? What is the logical explanation why these 10 regions, if there's any, sir, are the ones that have exceeded the dengue epidemic threshold? Bakit ho sila?
well, part of it probably is the rainy, the rain pattern. Hindi naman sabay-sabay. Kung napansin niyo sa NCR ngayon pa lang nagsa-start mag-rain. In fact, by this time last year, we had so many floods na, di ba? But this time, we haven't had any. So it's been a relatively dry rainy season for NCR and also Region 1 and 2. Region 2 recently just joined the group of itong ating mga dengue epidemic areas. So it also has some patterns depending on the water and then the breeding, of course, patterns of the mosquitoes.
But it's logical to think, sir, na kapag dun mag-umpisa in a certain area, dun din po siya mag-spread, especially if not left controlled, no?
Yes, so
Okay.
kasi the dengue mosquito does not travel far.
Yes.
Parang ilang bloke lang ang kaya niyang puntahan, no? So pag nag-start na sa isang lugar, then doon na nagdidikit-dikit na yung mga kaso natin.
So it's good to also remind the public that regarding this, sir, because that dengue-carrying mosquito can only travel up to a certain point. However, there is that wind factor that must be looked into as well, because pwedeng lumayo pa yung dengue-carrying mosquito because of the wind factor.
Yes, so maybe from 2 to 3 blocks. Now, that's why we say if you have a clustering of cases in your like sitio, no, or in your barangay, say yes to selective fogging kasi we know that the mosquitoes are concentrated in that area.
So dun dapat talaga, you really have to be more focused
Kapag
on...
sunod-sunod na talaga yung kaso doon na magkakapit-bahay na, then you have to focus on that area.
But so, because you're saying now, is Region 1, are Region 1 and NCR now posing to be a problem as well, sir?
Yeah, it means they're above the alert threshold. So we have 2 thresholds. Number 1 is the alert threshold, which is when you see that you're seeing cases more than the average of the last 5 years. So tumaas na tayo. And then there's a higher threshold when we call it an epidemic, meaning talagang this is way higher than we're seeing or expecting for that area. And Region 1 and NCR were until the past few months below the alert threshold. Kaya lang ngayon tumataas na rin. And we just have to be as active, no? Whether you're in an pandemic area or in an alert area, we now know that we have to do everything to make sure we don't, we don't get that increase, that rapid increase in the number of cases.
Where are NCR and Region 1 now? Are they above alert level?
They are above alert level and they're nearing the epidemic threshold.
Konti na lang.
Konti na lang yan. So talagang kailangan siguro paigtingin lang natin yung ating kasinupan, yung paglilinis, and make sure the kids are protected.
So Yusek, that means siguro, possibly sir, in the next couple of days, posibleng mag-epidemic na rin ang NCR in Region 1?
Oh, yes. We're watching it very, very closely. We're monitoring. We usually get our reports for the week at the start of the following week. So by tomorrow, siguro, we might have new numbers for that.
Okay, so you have 10 regions on the exceeding the epidemic threshold, sir. When we look at the particular stories in different regions, sir, Ormoc recently declared a state of calamity. Even in the Basay Hospital, napupuno na po yung mga ospital, yung mga chapel ginagawa na rin, nilalatagan na rin po ng mga kama. What is DOH doing? And is there some sort of thing, sir, that mas concentrated po kayo sa isang area kasi mas kailangan po ng tulong doon?
Well, ngayon kasi medyo non-selective na tayo, no. That's why we declared a national epidemic even before I think we only had 7 regions at that time. Kaya lang we saw it na there were 3 that were coming. And when you declare a national epidemic, the local government unit can also declare a state of calamity. So you're able to mobilize funds. So we've downloaded funds and set up, make sure na pre-positioned yung resources natin, mga gamot, mga testing kits natin sa mga regions, and of course, activated the dengue fast lanes in all of the hospitals. So pag may lagnat ngayon yung bata, mga 2 to 3 days, parang top of mind mo dapat dengue, no? Unless proven otherwise. So you test and then you treat accordingly, and we've opened dedicated wards for dengue, just to make sure that they are taken care of when they go to the hospitals and referral centers. Dati, nung nag-start kasi Cavite was one of the first ones. So we moved a lot of the patients to our Metro Manila hospitals. But now, we have to reallocate beds again kasi nga dumadami na rin tayo sa NCR cases.
Is there a bigger problem area, sir, among the regions?
Well, right now, 4A talaga, madami tayo dyan. Region 7, ito yung mga nauna, di ba? Sa Central Visayas. And then Western Visayas, then sa Iloilo. Yan ang mga nauna natin and Capiz. So we're really making sure that all of the resources are there.
Yusek, you're saying that earlier that the situation could actually be worse in terms of more people being infected because sabi mo nga, posibleng August, September, October, dumami pang cases. What scenario are you looking at, sir?
Kasi yung pattern ng dengue sa Philippines, nagsa-start siya ng July. So mababa tayo ng January and then July. And it stays there, up there, until November end. Kasi even after the rain stop, may 2 or 3 weeks pa yan na may tubig na nagbe-breed pa continuously yung mosquitoes. Usually nagsa-start siya bumaba talaga ng December. So kahit alam natin peak, sana gusto natin bumaba ng konti. And in dengue, talagang awareness is the first
Is key.
Talagang key. Talagang yung unang panlaban mo being aware, making sure that your surroundings are free from mosquitoes, protecting the children, and early detection. Na pag nagkasakit na, yung early talaga na consult and early diagnosis and treatment improves the survival rate.
So if you were to give us a month on when to possibly expect even the worst case scenario in terms of more people being infected? Anong buwan ho kaya to?
Siguro itong September, October talaga. Oo. November pa natin talaga yan nakikita na magkakaroon ng konting change.
Yeah. I was wondering, sir, kasi with all the measures being implemented, yung 4 o'clock habit, the 4S ho, I thought that at some point, posibleng ma-reduce yung number ng mga cases ng dengue. I guess that's not the case, sir.
What we want is at least hindi na tumaas pa. No? I mean, we want to decrease it, but realistically talaga ito yung peak months. But we just don't want it running away, and us becoming uncontrollable.
So, we mentioned a while ago, there is that 4 o'clock habit that they're looking into now. Sir, ano ho ba yun? Yung pumupunta ho kasi dapat sa mga breeding ground ng mga dengue ng mosquitoes.
Yes.
Tapos doon po posibleng patayin yung breeding ground nila or to kill those, destroy it, rather.
Oo. When we declared that the national epidemic, so they convened the NDRRMC, yung Risk Reduction Council. And of course, all of the departments naman promised and gave us their support. So that means we're working now with DepEd, with DILG, and then of course the OCD, Civil Defense, and the SWD. And at 4 o'clock, meron checklist from the regional office to the hospital directors to the schools kung ano yung ikot hanggang sa barangay. So parang gusto natin, at 4 o'clock, tingin tayo, araw-araw tingnan natin kung may tubig na nakatiwangwang dyan na pwede nating itumban, maglinis tayo, kung may nakikita tayong maraming lamok. And this will decrease talaga the index, yung index ng mosquitoes natin. And it really helps. Kaya lang we have to do it kasi every day. Because with the rains now, it rains and then it will stop, di ba? So kung naglinis tayo today, pag umulan bukas, in 2 to 3 days, may bagong lamok na naman.
That's what I wanted to discuss, sir. Yun talagang yung pinaka-common sense about it and what we should do in our own homes. We'll be taking a short break. Also, we're going to talk about the possible return of Dengvaxia. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Please stay tuned. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. Our guest today, Health Undersecretary Domingo. You know, the USEC was telling me during the break na kahit daw pala yung pinggan or plato ninyo na may konting tubig na nakatiwangwang. Sir, tell us more about that. That could be a problem?
The mosquito doesn't need a lot of water. Kahit na mga konting moisture lang, for example, mga dahon lang na may 2 or 3 millimeters of water. And apparently, the Aedes aegypti has a very short life cycle. 2 to 3 days lang, pwede siyang maging kiti-kiti at magiging lamok siya. So it has to be an everyday activity just to make sure everything is dry. And a lot of the water reservoirs are not commonly seen. Hindi tayo sanay dyan. Baka nasa alulod ng bubong natin, mga gulong-gulong na nakatambak. Or even inside the house, pwede yung ating mga flower vase na for flowers na may tubig. We have to just be really careful about it.
Ibig mo sabihin yung mga vase? Yung vase na may, let's say, may bulaklak ka doon, na may tubig na ganyan, yun, pwedeng breeding ground na yun.
And if somebody gives you flowers, it probably lasts 7 days, like a week. So, 7 days na may stagnant water.
Correct. Tapos doon na, in 3 days, buhay na yung...
In 3 days, pwedeng lamok na yun.
So, is the suggestion, sir, really, lahat ng wag ka muna maglagay ng stagnant water sa bahay?
Yes,
ganon?
that's the safest. Especially kung alam mo na merong mga nagkakadengue doon sa community ninyo, Kasi... that means that there's a virus going around. It's biting, there's a mosquito biting people and they're getting infected, and that can be transmitted by other mosquitoes within the vicinity.
But when you say especially those, sir, look, you have 10 regions on epidemic threshold. You're looking at NCR and possibly Region 1. Hindi ba dapat tayong lahat na gawin na natin yun to play safe, to be safe rather?
Oo. That degree of yung paranoia na and alert. I think it's incumbent upon all of us now because we know na, although when we say naman, of course, Region 1, we don't mean every city. But we know that that city is probably contiguous, or malapit lang dun sa maraming kaso na cities. So, kailangan ma-prevent natin talaga na pumunta naman sa community natin.
So, those are your suggestions, USEC, yung mga stagnant water, kahit na daw yung mga nasa vase, ay kung pwede, wag na muna. Itapon na natin yan. So, as long as there's stagnant water, what, sir? Just throw it away?
Oo. Better pa rin talaga dry everything. So, kasama yan sa 4 o'clock habit. Umikot sa paligid ng bahay. pati sa loob ng bahay.
All right. Now, sir, the question on Dengvaxia. Before I go to what the President said that he's open to actually using this, there was a recent report, sir, that parents of children who were inoculated with Dengvaxia, who unfortunately eventually died, I'm not saying, sir, because of the vaccine, they're talking to media and saying that they are being offered 50,000 pesos by the Department of Health. Number one, sir, is this true?
Well, that was not being offered. This is parang abuloy, no? Tulong ito ng gobyerno. It's coming actually from the office of the president. No? So when they come in and then there's a child who was given the vaccine and then they die for whatever reasons, as a form of assistance, the DOH pinaprocess natin yung papers and then we pass it on to the office of the president.
Sir, some of them feel that this is a bribe coming from the DOH. Please explain
Well,
that
they
to them.
shouldn't. No? Dapat yan ang pinapaalala natin na wala naman conditions yun. It's really tulong, no? Para lang po makatulong dun sa mga sa panahon ng pangangailangan. Pero wala siyang kondisyon, no? Kung meron lumapit sa kanila, for example, tapos sasabihin na may ibibigay na tulong pero may kapalit na ganyan, bawal
Mag-sign
magganyan.
ka ng...
Oo, then hindi po legal yun. Hindi po yun siguro
But
taga
is it true
Department
that the
of Health.
DOH is asking for the immunization card, the death certificate to prove that...
Well, that's part of the documentation required. Pero yung kinausap ko naman yung mga tao dun sa office, sabi ko, hindi naman natin kailangan ng original. A certified true copy is what we need. We just want to make sure that it's really the right person, the right family, kasi yung pangalan ng magulang, kung sino yung mga beneficiary. Pero it should not in any way remove yung pakiramdam na magkaroon ng pakiramdam yung pasyente na kinukuha mo yung mga dokumento na maaari nilang gamitin in the future.
Yeah, kasi parang sinasabi nila, this is my evidence at hinihingi ng DOH. So it's really just a certified true copy, that's good enough.
Yes.
Or a photocopy, does that work as well, sir?
A photocopy and then they just show the original when they submit them.
Okay.
Pero yung syempre, naiintindihan naman natin yun. Baka naman sila mayroong mga binabalak sa darating na panahon at kakailanganin nila yun. And even just siguro sentimentally, you would like to hold on to some original documents of your child. And that's completely understandable.
So the problem or the issue of Dengvaxia, rather, the issue of Dengvaxia has come to the fore again. The president saying he's open, but he wants to leave this to medical experts. Here's my question, Yusek. Personally, it becomes a little bit confusing because you have a group of doctors who are for Dengvaxia and you have a group of doctors also against Dengvaxia. Who are we supposed to believe?
Well, alam mo, in the end kasi any product naman, before it's administered or bago mo inumin o bago inject sa'yo, dapat siguro suriin mo, no? And then you just it has to be very personalized siguro in case, having, for example, Dengvaxia available in the market doesn't mean everybody will get it immediately, no? It means your doctor will have to tell you, these are the possible side effects, these are the indications, sa kanitong pasyente lang pwedeng ibigay ito, and then you decide for yourself, no? Kasi talagang meron siyang it probably has some benefits, but of course, it probably has side effects, no?
Okay.
So every time you decide on something, kailangan i-weigh mo for you or for your child.
Because it is subjective? Ganun ho ba yan?
Oo, wala kasing 100%. For example, lahat tayo, iba-iba yung threshold natin for taking a risk, no? It's funny, you hear doctors saying, we want it.
Yeah.
But I haven't heard any patients or patient mothers asking for Dengvaxia, no? Usually, pag I'm with the FDA now, so usually pag may gamot, even rare cancer or something na nakapila for registration, nakakatanggap ako ng sulat, ito pong anak ko, may sakit na ganito, walang gamot. Wala pa akong naririnig, no, na parents. So,
well, that's also because of the scare or the fear, sir.
yes,
Hindi ba?
exactly, oo. So meron ka kasing every time you decide on doing a medical intervention, may threshold ka Sasabihin ko, ako kaya kong i-risk ito. Kasi alam ko may possible side effect ito siguro, for each person, it will be different.
So the DOH is studying this right now to possibly bring back Dengvaxia, ganun ho ba?
Sa FDA side kasi, talagang na-revoke yung kanyang Certificate of Product Registration. Walang license siya, no? Natanggal
That's why it's not allowed?
Yes.
Okay.
It was first suspended in November of 2017, I'm sorry. No? And then, hiningan sila ng mga regulatory requirements nila. Paper requirements ito, mga monitoring nila, at saka yung post-marketing surveillance. And they weren't able to give it. So, na-suspend, talagang na-revoke permanently noong December 2018. Noong February, nagkaroon sila ng motion for reconsideration with the FDA, and that was also rejected. So, sa FDA, talagang revoked na siya. Ang ginawa nila ngayon, nag-appeal to the Secretary of Health. Kasi the FDA is technically under the DOH.
Yeah.
So siya yung next level.
What made you reject their possible license here in the Philippines? Bakit po?
It was purely regulatory at that time. Kasi talagang when you develop a new drug and then you put it in the market, tapos i-market mo na bago pa lang meron kang responsibilidad na i-report sa FDA kung ano yung mga nakikita mo, kung ano yung findings. And in this case, hindi sila nakapag-submit ng mga post-marketing surveillance
Is this
requirements.
purely technical in nature? That's why
Yes.
their license has not been approved?
Yes, it was purely technical.
But
so
it
that was
doesn't
it
mean
was
that the FDA did not approve them because it's a cause of death.
It was actually approved talaga. Nabigyan talaga sila ng CPR. Kaya lang kasi nung
CPR, Certificate of Product Registration.
But we have to remember that the original CPR that they have is yung original pa dati, na pwede daw siyang ibigay sa older than 9 years old. Ngayon kasi nagbago
Correct.
na. No? I mean, in the way that it's registered in other countries, it's now only to be given sometimes over 10. May ibang countries, tire-register lang siya for use in children over 14. And only those who have been tested positive for dengue previously.
Yeah.
So, nag-iba na talaga.
So I wonder why they would not. It's as if, sir, they weren't complete in their requirements to the FDA, kaya hindi po sila nabigyan ng Certificate of Product Registration or na-approve ulit.
Oo, kaya na-revoke. Kasi hindi nga, kasi parang
Kompleto.
continuing pa yung kanilang testing and studies at that time and they were not able to submit on time.
So paano yun? If the FDA rejects this and then they appeal to the Secretary of Health, how does the process go through? Hindi ho ba bago man pumayag, for example, hypothetically si Secretary Duque, kailangan muna may approval ng FDA?
Hindi.
Hindi
In
ba?
this case, the Secretary will decide. No? So, ang possible decisions niya is yes, the appeal is upheld and you restore the CPR, or we uphold the FDA decision to revoke the CPR.
So who is in charge of making that decision to revoke that it stands, the revocation, or that pwede po silang ulit magbenta dito? Secretary Duque?
Well, at this time, for the revocation of the license, it's the Secretary who will decide
I
upon
see.
it. No?
So tell us more, is there any information on when? Because sinabi po, parang 10 to 14 days pag-aaralan po ito.
Oo, and that was like a week ago.
Yeah.
So probably within a week, I think the Secretary will come up with a decision and then he will give the directive to the FDA, whether to restore or
Continue to revoke
continue to revoke the CPR.
And if he says restore, does that necessarily mean pwede na siyang ibenta sa merkado?
Well, personally, I don't think so, no? Kasi pag sinabing restore yung CPR, before kasi natanggal ito, nagkaroon sila ng application for relabeling, no? Meaning magbabago na yung indications. So I would think kailangan nilang magpa-relabel muna and then pag-aaralan natin at titingnan natin kung ano yung next approved the labeling.
So kahit sabihin ni
na
Secretary Duque restore, pag kailangan muna nila i-submit pa rin yung information for labeling and
Yes.
then you give
And then we have to check the actual relabeling that will be approved. Kasi kung kanino siya pwedeng ibigay,
Correct.
di ba,
Okay.
kung paano, tsaka kung paano yung magiging
So
proseso
it's not that
nito.
easy. It's not as if pag sinabi ni Secretary Duque, ibalik na yan, ay mababalik bukas.
I don't think so. No, definitely not.
We'll be taking a short break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Please stay tuned. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. Our guest today, Health Undersecretary Eric Domingo. Sir, so kapag ganun po, I mean, very simply, yung issue ba ng Dengvaxia, meron ho ba siyang basihan talaga? Or was it just politicized? I mean, coming from you.
Yeah. Meron talaga, no? There was an issue. Kasi remember when we gave it out, when the Department of Health gave it out in 2016, they really vaccinated children in a mass vaccination program. And then 3 years later, Sanofi comes in and say, oh wait, you cannot give it to those who have not had dengue before. So even, granting that 80% or 90% of the kids who were vaccinated had dengue na previously. At age 10 yan kasi iniisip natin sa Pilipinas. Siguro at age 10 tayo at 80 to 90% of us nagkaroon na ng dengue.
Even hindi natin alam,
Hindi
sir?
natin alam, mild lang siguro na like that. Pero that still leaves 10 to 20%, no? And that's about 150,000 kids na hindi natin alam kung hindi pa sila nagka-dengue at hindi natin kilala kung sino sila among the 900,000 kids.
Yeah. Because if we go back, sir, there are about 800 to 900,000 kids that
Yes.
were injected the Dengvaxia
Yes,
vaccine.
oo.
So doon nagka-problema.
Oo, kasi hindi natin ngayon alam kung
Yeah.
sino sa kanila yung at risk for severe dengue in the future. Kasi yun na yung bagong label niya ngayon eh, no? If you get it without having had dengue before, you may be you
At
may
risk.
be at risk for more severe dengue.
Aha.
So yun yung ngayon kung lahat naman na mabibigyan natin tested at saka nagkaroon sila talaga ng dengue before, then mas focused na.
Is there a way to test kung nagka-dengue ka na before, sir?
Okay, there's no commercially readily available test.
Yeah, but I'm getting confused because there's supposed to be kits, sir, in the market.
So there is for people who get sick right now. So if you get sick right now and then I test you, I know you have dengue or not. No? So kung positive ka for that NS1 test or IgG or IgM test for disease right now, alam mo that when you get better, you can get that vaccine. It will probably protect you in the future. But for me, na wala naman akong dengue ngayon, walang reliable test na pag kinunan ako ng dugo, masasabi, nagka-dengue ka na dati. So only those who actually went to the hospital in their past and had a test done that says, yes, you had dengue, doon siya magagamit.
But is Dengvaxia the answer to the epidemic, sir? A solution, rather?
It could probably be useful for epidemics in the future. So, yung mga nagkasakit ngayon, babakudahan natin sila
alam mo na.
para hindi na sila magkakaroon in the future. Tapos baka magkaroon ng test later to test us.
But if that's the logic, sir, for those who have had dengue also before, I can apply the same logic that you said.
Yes.
Pwede rin silang
Pwede rin
mag-Dengvaxia
sila
ngayon. oo.
na magkaroon. Yung alam nila na nagka-dengue na sila at na-test sila. Pero for an outbreak right now, hindi siya useful. Kasi hindi naman natin ngayon pwedeng bakunahan yung mga batang hindi pa nagkaka-dengue ngayon kasi hindi naman natin alam kung nagka-dengue sila before.
Unless the parents actually confirm that the kid
that the
had
kid was
dengue.
tested previously.
Okay, very quickly, sir, yung sa COA report, sir, magkano ho ba at how much medicine is being stored right now and are there expired ones already na nasayang?
Yeah, I think by the end of 2018, there was this COA report saying that there were 18 billion. No? Pina-check naman natin, mukhang late minsan yung reporting na ilabas na, hindi natanggal sa bodega. But when the secretary found that out, the first thing we did was, of course, say na wag muna ang bibili ng gamot na meron tayong nakastock sa bodega. And in fact, the whole of 2018, I think we only bought 3 billion worth of medications just to move this out. The latest report I saw was that as of July 2019, yung stocks natin yan is about 3 billion. And some are medications. And some really were near expiring. No?
Yeah.
Mag-expire ng parang July, August, September
Ng 2019?
ng 2019.
Pero na-roll out na po yun?
So ito
Nagamit
yung na-roll
ba
out
yan?
na karamihan. Meron pang natitira yata konti mga micronutrients and some anti-diabetic drugs. But we are now moving this just to make sure that they are utilized before they expire.
So in summary, sir, ilan po, how much medicine is up for expiration? Do you have any numbers in the next 6 months maybe?
Yung nung December, it was about 200 million, no? Pero itong by end of July, ang nakita ko parang 20 or 30 million. I'm
By
not so
the
sure.
end of July?
Yung nakita ko na nandoon pa sa bodega daw na they have to move until September.
Pero that's still, sir,
It's
20
still a lot
to
of
30
money.
million.
Yes.
Oh. Is there a better way to do the inventory of the medicine being
I'm
stocked?
sure there are
diba?
100 better ways. No? I mean, it's never been a strength of the Department of Health. No? I think it starts from forecasting and choosing the drugs that you will use for the program, making sure na ang bibilhin mo yung gagamitin, tsaka yung tatanggapin. Kasi yung procurement, minsan bibili sila, tapos late dadating, tapos bibili na naman, tapos mapapatong. And it gets very, very difficult. And it's a disservice to the public.
Absolutely. Wasted money. To Health Undersecretary Eric Domingo, sir, maraming salamat po sa inyo. I hope to see you again. I want to discuss the FDA also sometime soon. Thank you for joining us here on The Source. I'm Pinky Webb. You're watching CNN Philippines.